If you think about it, Sidney Crosby could have been some other NHL franchise's number one in every regard. Very, very easily so in most cases. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates that I hope you'll check out as well. I don't know how the older, more experienced hockey fans will react to this, but in this coming NHL season, Sid is going to pass Mario in points. As I'm speaking, Mario ranks 8th on the NHL's all-time list, which is really crazy when you consider his productivity in general, but we all know what those stories were. And Sid is 9th. Mario finished, of course, with 1,723 points. Sid is at 1,687. Simple math tells you Sid needs 36 points to tie, 37 to pass. Given his standard pace, that could happen by Thanksgiving, certainly by Christmas. And when it does, it's going to be, Sid's hit a lot of milestones, and Sid's still got a bunch more to hit along the way. But if this one isn't a top 2 or 3 for him, I can't imagine what would be. It's not about passing Mario as much as it is that he becomes the franchise's all-time leading scorer. Now, there's still another marker after that because Sid has 625 goals. Mario finished with 690. That's a gap, appropriately enough, where Sid needs 66 goals to become the franchise's all-time leader in goals. But honestly, I feel like the points thing is bigger because of who Sid is, the kind of player that he's always been. He's always been really evenly distributed. And let me tell you what makes me a little, I don't want to say cringy, what makes me just kind of sit on my edge here with this specific subject is that I'm uncomfortable with anybody being seen as number one over Mario when it comes to anything in Pittsburgh sports. He's the greatest athlete our city's ever seen, the greatest talent, and he's the greatest a lot of other things. But then there's also this that has me uncomfortable. Why couldn't Sid have come into a situation, I'm operating here in a total mental vacuum, but why couldn't Sid have come into a situation where he could have been that everything to everybody, where he could just break the record and not have to worry about what impact it might or might not have on how Mario is perceived? One of the funny things that's come out of these types of situations over the years is when Sid gets asked about anything where he has overtaken Mario, he'll always give one of those very familiar head shakes and say something along the lines of, yeah, he missed so many games, and you can only imagine if he had stayed healthy, this and that. And again, it becomes about somebody else. Look, I have no doubt when this happens, you're going to see it commemorated and celebrated appropriately. I also have no doubt that whether or not he buys the team or whatever, that Mario will be there when Sid produces that 37th point this fall or winter. Because as classy as Sid has been regarding Mario, that's been reciprocated in every way. Besides, Mario is not really the type. Mario is not the jealous type. He knows what he did. He knows what his abilities were. There have been stops along the way for Mario, even in his playing days. Some of you will recall that he once referred to Jaromir Jagr's goal against the Blackhawks in the 1992 Stanley Cup Final as the greatest goal I've ever seen. You remember that one, the pinball where he bounced off of a bunch of people. Sean McEachern set a big pick, and he backhanded it past Eddie Belfour. Well, you know what? It was a great goal. It wasn't the greatest goal Mario had ever seen, because he was on the ice for a few that were a lot better than that one. Mario even said one time that Alexei Kovalev was the most talented player he'd ever seen. Okay, now this one, you can start getting into semantics because he can't see himself, okay, looking in a mirror. But he's never been shy about saying stuff like that. And when he talks about Sid, there's no breaks. There's nowhere that he'll stop and say, stop a little bit short because, he also has to be considered. It's just not who he is. He's really comfortable with his own greatness, if that makes sense. My own policy on this, if you're new to my coverage, either in spoken or written form, and I'm beyond blessed to have covered most of Mario's career, all of Sid's career, is that I am quite comfortable speaking in extremes when it comes to Sid, both on and off the ice. But not with Sid, not with any other hockey player who's ever lived, not with any other athlete in our city in any sport do I ever cross the Mario line. It will be surreal to see Sid do that for real in the scope of hockey's most valued statistic when we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q isn't a question at all. It's a comment that was placed on the DK Pittsburgh Sports app yesterday in response to the episode that I did about Kris Letang aging as he is. And this was so compelling, I'm just going to read it to you verbatim. It's good stuff. And again, it's from Casey, who says, "It's an interesting and sad privilege, I think that's the right word, to watch these players go through an entire career and witness how things start to deteriorate. I always had a preconceived notion that the body simply breaks down and players can't keep up with the league. The one player who changed my mind about that was Chris Kunitz. During his last 2 years, the skating and the physicality were still there, but the man's hands just quit on him. Even the double overtime goal against Ottawa, Game 7 of the 2017 Eastern Conference Final, even that goal was a flubbed shot. I guess what I'm saying is I don't know what the end looks like for Letang, but I didn't notice fatigue being the factor that sunk his season last year. What I did notice is that he didn't notice defensive assignments. It wasn't that he was late to his man. He just simply didn't even see the man. Didn't take sticks away, didn't close the back door. So I don't have a good feeling for what comes next for him. Just to add a couple of things to that, Casey. One, I'm really glad somebody else saw that Kunitz flubbed that shot. It's amazing to me how much history has been rewritten about that goal. Watching it live from the press box, I was stunned more than anything that Craig Anderson just never had a handle on it. Now, of course, in hindsight, we know why. Goalies hate knuckleballs. Goalies hate surprises. But yeah, Kunitz is one of those guys that jumps out at me in the whole aging aspect as well. He did not adjust well. And when the end came, it came with him plunging off a cliff hockey-wise. Being fair here, though, Kunitz also scored in regulation in that game against Ottawa and had a tremendous NHL career. As for Letang, Brooks Orpik told me a long time ago, and by that I mean when Orpik was playing for the Penguins as opposed to retired, that Letang's game will always benefit from a focus on the back end because it emanates from the back end. Again, that was Orpik's observation, not mine, the whole thing. The way Orpik saw it, he builds from deep in the defensive zone and creates what comes of his game from back there, from being quick and sturdy and reliable. Stout really is the word that probably fits the best. If you want to offer a stick tap, even just one stick tap, to Letang for something that he did well this past season, you would take his penalty killing. I thought his PK work was solid. He defended hard, to borrow a Mike Sullivanism, even after he's gone. He blocked shots. He closed off lanes down low. But yeah, you're right, Casey, especially at 5-on-5. And my goodness, even worse on the power play. You would just see what you described there, just lapses upon lapses. So maybe Letang can take from the old Orpik advice or Orpik assessment and just focus on defending. I appreciate what you sent. I appreciate the hockey community that we have on our app at DK Pittsburgh Sports is amazing. The background in hockey that a lot of our commenters have, the general knowledge, the passion. If I sound like I'm urging you to go download the app, I am. Go get that done. Everything that we do as a staff, myself included, is on there. And by the way, if you do that, if you download the app on either Apple's App Store or Android's Google Play, send me an email, okay? I mean that, to my personal email, dk@dkpittsburghsports.com, and I'll get you hooked up with an ad-free subscription at 2/3 off. Love seeing our hockey community grow on there. Anyway, this show will be back next Monday.